I feel like every time we make a video, we're always in a new space, and we're always consistent with. Yeah, I know. Welcome back, guys. Every time I say it, the past 3 videos I've said it's been a while. It's been a while. I know we're very consistent with our videos, but Joker came out, and I feel like that alone was enough of a reason to make a video. So here we are. So I want to dive into Joker a bit. I don't go too much in detail on it. There's not a lot that hasn't already been said about it. I think it's a great movie. I personally think it's a masterpiece in its own right. I want to pass to you guys. Thoughts on Joker?
Yeah, fantastic. I'd say go watch it if you're not a fan of DC. You more into dark tone films, go watch it. Or if you just love comics in general, go watch it. But if you just want a very dark tone type of film, go watch it. Very good.
Yeah, I think the best way I could describe it is when me and you had a conversation about it the other day. We were saying how DC with this has kind of made its own standalone film, much like Fox made Logan, and Logan stands far above the rest of the X-Men movies, at least in my own opinion, based on storytelling, pacing, character development, very emotional scenes. This film stands above a lot of the DC movies that have come out, like Wonder Woman, Batman v Superman, Man of Steel, Suicide Squad. If any of those movies did not suit your palate, I don't think any of them really suited ours. Joker is not that movie. Joker is very different. It's unique. It's a dark tone, and I think it's very refreshing to see that DC actually went this way. And I like it, and if they continue doing this, I look forward to most of the new projects.
Oh, definitely. Just from my perspective, how the way I look at movies, just from, not just the story itself. The cinematography, the lighting, Joaquin's chilling performance as the Joker. It was all done really well. So, and I know there's mixed reviews here and there. People don't like it for certain reasons. Just go watch it yourself. I recommend. I don't think you have to be a fan of comic book movies to enjoy it. I think it's just it stands as a good movie on its own. But going on to this, I wanted to talk about movies in general. Just because this superhero movies, they're kind of what's what I'm looking for?
A norm kind of now, like a
It's
commodity.
They're kind of they really are, and I think they not have defined what movies are, but we see them so often now. I think it's not that it's hard to tell what a good movie is, but again, it's kind of set the standpoint of what movies are. Mm-hmm. So, and I bring this up because Martin Scorsese, one of my favorite directors, I'm sure everyone's heard, he took a kind of a jab at the MCU. So basically what he said was the MCU or the Marvel movies aren't cinema. Mm-hmm. But he was saying that as good as they are in their own way, they're not. I have the article. Oh, I don't have my phone on me. I'm sorry. But basically he was saying that to him, they're like theme parks. It's like, they're. I don't necessarily think he was bad, but they're not his cup of tea. He's like, I tried watching them, but they're not for me. To them, they're not cinema. I think that's a really good, that's a good question. Like, what is cinema?
Okay. So hearing that, I can kind of agree. In terms of saying that Marvel movies are a theme park. It's just that we see these movies a lot of often. Everybody enjoys them. A lot of people like them. A new superhero movie comes out. It's like, oh, hey, a new ride. Let's all go and get on this. Mm-hmm. Let's all go and get on that. But if I was to be honest, looking back at Endgame, I loved Endgame. I loved Endgame. Mm-hmm. Personally, though, I feel that Infinity War was better than Endgame. But looking as a cinematic movie, I feel that Joker is better than Endgame.
Yes,
of course.
And that. So I love Endgame too. I think for the MCU, I think Endgame's probably personally one of my favorite. Mm-hmm. But I say that from an experience standpoint. What I mean by that is as a movie, I'll give it like a 7.5, maybe an 8. But as an experience, I give it a 10. I nerded out. But I think just as a movie, like for the MCU, probably the best one I think that stands as a movie as far as acting, writing, character development would be, I think, the first Iron Man. I think you can tell a big difference in quality from the first Iron Man to the most recent Marvel movie. And you can tell they've become more commercialized, more kids. And I get that's the targeted demographic. But I think watching Joker, it kind of opened up the, I think my eyes at least, that these movies can be so much more.
They really
and
can.
and that's
And they're low budget too. They're like 50. I don't know how much exactly, but it was very low budget too.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
But I can see that there's not a huge use for like CG. There's not a lot of everything looks practical for the most part, and I don't see what they would need to use heavy CG for. But I think that's what I'm trying to get to, or bringing back to this point, about Marvel not being cinema, and a lot of people are actually upset about that. They're like, no, he's wrong. Like movies are meant to entertain, and I get that. I really do get that. But if I were to compare the Marvel movie, again, I love the MCU. But some of my favorite movies that Scorsese has, which are The Departed, The Wolf of Wall Street, you can see there's you can distinguish the line between the quality of a movie, of those two movies. The heart that went into it. Not that the heart doesn't go into MCU movies, but there is a difference. And personally, as much as again I love the MCU, I do wish there was more of a push for some of these more, I guess we'd call artsy movies. Like personally, I mean, good example, La La Land. I love La La Land. I don't know if you've seen the movie.
I still haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it.
We need to have a movie now. I remember we talked about that.
Okay,
getting back on track.
Well, Spider-Verse, a good example. I think that's a really great movie.
Yes.
But it's the lowest grossing Spider-Man movie.
Unfortunately.
So I think I get where he's coming from, and personally, I do wish there was a bigger push for movies, or people would go watch more of those movies. That and I wouldn't say opposed to the Marvel movies, but those movies, I'd like to see them get funded more. I feel like that's why Hollywood doesn't take that push to try to they like to play it safe. Yes. That's why we're seeing a bunch of remakes of these movies. Marvel keeps making movies, Star Wars, Terminator. I mean, you name it. So I think that's really that's the fault of us. Us as consumers watching movies. But that's kind of my take on the whole thing.
See, I'm going to agree with you there. And again, going back to Marvel, I love the Marvel movies, and they're fantastic. I enjoy them as a fan. I do delve a little bit into the comics, so I'm like, oh, this is cool. They added this, they didn't add this, et cetera, et cetera. But my main thing with that is that if you look at any Marvel movie, and this is why I personally like Infinity War more, Infinity War didn't have the happy ending. It didn't have the hero saves the day, which is true in some of the comics, and the hero doesn't always win in every issue. And I think that's why I like Infinity War more, because it brought that like realism to it in a sense where, yes, they're heroes, but there's only so much they can do in the sense of everything that's going on. And with Joker, it was just, there was really no practical effects. There wasn't too many action scenes, but the tone...
It just told a good story.
The story was well developed. There was great character development. You really got to see how this character basically descended into madness and how everything affected him and how he turned out the way he was. And I think that's just proper storytelling.
Yeah. And I think most of the, these more, commercialized movies, whether it be, even, I think Star Wars is a little guilty of it too. Yeah. I think there's a lack of that character development.
Yeah. They're just trying to be like more streamlined, like, oh, here, just pump them out as we go.
It is, and I think that's the problem. I feel like we're excusing action or eye candy for good storytelling.
Yes.
I mean, and some people, everyone is, teach their own. If you enjoy a movie, if action's, all you want, and you enjoy a movie for that, props to you, definitely. But I like more to my movie. Story's key. Story's key to me. I think that's really the problem with a lot of these newer movies, that there's just none of that, to where you don't really even care about the characters anymore.
I'll agree to that. I think it was about a week ago I went to go watch Rambo, Rambo Last Blood.
And I thought it was Final Blood. Was it Final Blood?
Final Blood, Last
Blood?
Oh
no, one of those names.
One of the many Rambo movies, like the Rockies.
Yeah.
And it was okay, but there was a lot that left like to be desired. I felt that the character development wasn't there. I felt that all this was happening, and I'm just like, okay, like I guess
found himself in another.
And people will argue like, oh, that's just a Rambo movie, or that's how a lot of movies were, or how a lot of movies have been. And I feel that we should stray away from that, because like you said, eye candy doesn't necessarily mean great movie.
It can only do so much for you.
Yes.
If I'm being honest. And I think that's, to me, this movie's bigger than I think most people, get. I mean, it's getting the praise it deserves, definitely. But I think this movie is a fine testament to this is what's what movies can be, and I hope this movie has greenlit the possibilities for more movies like this for DC. And that being said, I mean, this it's doing well, really well right now. If you can have, I feel like this is like DC's opportunity. Hey, let's expand. Let's tell more of these stories about our characters. If you have any story on any character with this, not necessarily be dark like this, but this type of storytelling, this type of acting, this character development, what would it be? I'll start with you, Brian.
Pertaining to just DC?
We'll do just DC for right now.
Just DC. Okay. Let's go over to Kyle so I can think properly.
Okay.
Just go over to Kyle. Okay. So does that have to be just DC though?
Okay. Let's expand it. So outside of DC, let's go to Marvel, even Star Wars.
Star Wars. I think like he's not part of Star Wars or Marvel, but I think like The Crow. You ever heard The Crow?
Oh, the old
Crow,
movie?
that old movie. I think that would also be like a good.
The one with Brandon Lee.
That one.
Oh, okay.
That would be a fantastic one. Like.
Okay. And funny, I have not seen The Crow.
What?
I know. As much of a cinema buff I am, I have not seen The Crow.
It's fantastic. It's probably like one of those early like comic movies back made in the 90s where it's like all graphic, but at the same time the whole premise was, main character, I think his name was Eric, who died but like had like so much regrets. Blah 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 blah, and he gets the second chance to do justice to all the wrongs that he experienced and all that. So I think that would be like a great story and also a good character arc and development. Seeing like how like probably like an innocent fellow.
Yeah, given the Joker, not in the sense of. I mean, I don't know the Crow's story. I don't know if he has like also an arc of his descent to madness, but just in terms of just cinematography, even the music was so good.
It's one of those few movies where like I would want to go home and just listen to the soundtrack.
Yeah, and just dance all weird.
Do those interpretive dance by yourself.
But Brian, do you got one? Yeah.
Thinking about it, I know they're remaking it, but I would love to see this kind of action character development for Spawn.
Ooh.
That's something we have. And you know what? I honestly, just because Jamie Foxx is playing him, I don't think we're going to get that. Honestly, I want Idris Elba to play Spawn. But
I highly doubt we're going to get the performance that we probably would want.
But I mean, Spawn, first of all, it needs to be rated R. It does.
It really has to.
And I hope it is, but I hope that also doesn't excuse it for, hey, with rated R, let's have, and I get it, Spawn's definitely, gun wielding, heavy blood, but also when it comes down to it, I want a good story.
Yeah, and again, going back to examples like Logan. Logan was that gritty rated R movie. It had blood. I remember seeing the Red Band trailer where Wolverine just puts his knuckles under the guy. And you see the claws pierce his head. I'm like, that was awesome. Yeah. But the action in that, like, although that was eye candy, it didn't stray from the overall storyline. It didn't take away from the feels you felt during that movie.
Yes. It was a story of Logan. It was about this man who basically could essentially live forever, but at this point had nothing to live for.
Yeah, he really just wanted to die at that point until he found something to fight for.
Yep, and he died doing it. I thought it was beautifully done. So that being said, so obviously DC has made other good movies. I will say, I mean, I love The Dark Knight, even like the Michael Keaton Batman movies. I really liked, but obviously I think Joker stands as their personally I think their best work. Again, in terms of storytelling, and I think for Marvel, even though it wasn't directly Disney, I think Logan holds that that place.
Title.
That title. There you go. Do you think Star Wars will ever get to that, or do a piece like that?
See, I would like it to, but the way it is now, it's too commercialized. And this is going off topic. Remember we talked about what was it, The Last Jedi?
Probably, yeah.
And I remember I mentioned I hated the Porgs.
Yeah.
And I remember you all telling me like, oh no, it's because they have a problem with shooting and this bird kept making noise. And I was like, look, I don't care. I just hate it. And then they marketed it and I hated it. I feel that Star Wars at this point has become too commercialized. I mean, you have even had this talk where we're not really hyped for Skywalker again.
Unfortunately, no. It's sad because I really, I've grown up with Star Wars. Star Wars has been a huge part of, my childhood. And I mean, I was hyped when The Force Awakens was coming out, but I think just with this new movie, it does feel like damage control, with Palpatine coming. I see the trailer and it's just nostalgia. So I'll be honest, in the latest trailer, the only part I'm really happy for, I smiled is the first half where it's showing all the old footage of the old movies, and then we get to the new stuff. I'm like,
Oh, great.
yeah. So it's but again, it goes back to it. It's just every character, but the exception of Kylo Ren has some development. But I feel like everyone else is it's just kind of two dimensional. I don't know. And I think the problem too is, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong. If you have the answer to this, please tell me. But what is the what is the goal of this trilogy? You have because you had in the original one, it was obviously the Empire, it was Palpatine. In the prequels, as not as good as they were, obviously the story was Anakin becoming Darth Vader. That's what we knew that from the beginning. What is the story to this? I think that's the main problem when it comes down to it.
And we probably won't get the answer until the movie comes out. But even then, I just don't know the way with these past two movies. Because we talked about before, J.J. Abrams' iteration for Force Awakens I enjoyed it, but it was just a lot of rehash and nostalgia.
This movie looks like a lot of nostalgia.
Yeah,
definitely. So
I swear to God, if we see any Ewoks, because I recognize Endor, I hope we don't see any Ewoks there. Please,
I want an Ewok.
Put their heads on a stake. For all I care.
Look, I will take an Ewok over a Porg any day. But
Okay,
we're getting
that
off
I agree
topic.
with.
But we're getting off topic.
Yeah. So when it comes down to, I think, I do hope this movie has, again, just kind of not paved the way, but given, I guess investors, whoever funds these movies, like, hey, we can take, and not that I wouldn't say they did take a chance
Let's
with this movie.
change this
because honestly, I think I also respect this movie because they could have really played it safe. I mean, the Joker name alone would sell.
Yeah.
It could have been, we could have gotten Jared Leto's Joker again. And yeah, I know. And it probably would have sold, but they did right by the character. So I hope they do that. If I could have any character, with this treatment, I think I'd want, sticking to DC, probably Riddler.
Ooh.
I would like the Riddler. And I remember we talked about this. One of the ideas I had for Riddler was if he was going to be in the Nolan trilogy, which was very dark and very gritty, I wanted
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal.
I love Jake
And
Gyllenhaal.
I know some people are going to be like, why Jake Gyllenhaal? If you've seen Nightcrawler,
Fantastic movie.
Yes. His very being is just creepy and off-putting. And he's very sadistic in his own right.
But he's also very intellectual
in
his own weird way. And I think that is the Joker. The Riddler.
He's very creepy and off-putting, but he has this bigger, this master plan and this grand scheme of things. And you see that in the movie. And so if I would get a Riddler, I would want him to be that Jake Gyllenhaal, that well-written, creepy character that, he's just smart and an intellectual. I would just love that.
Yeah. Oh my God, I had a question. Do you think there should be a sequel to this movie? And that's a really tough one, even for me. I find myself, I want to see more of Joaquin Phoenix. It's just this movie it's so good on its own. It's gonna be hard. It's hard to make a sequel to this, or to be above it. Because we went in with, I wouldn't say we went with low expectations, but we didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And it was so good. And I think making a sequel, obviously you have these huge expectations.
You set the bar pretty high.
So,
but where would they really go? Now that they told the origin story, would they bring in Batman? And
that's the thing too.
How would that work out?
Yeah, and Matt Reeves has his own Batman coming out, which actually, I'm actually pretty excited for. I really wouldn't mind if DC went ahead and just did their own thing with Batman, and then had these other movies just in their own universe. Just for the sake of telling good stories. I would like that. And again, I don't even know if this Batman's going to tie into the DCEU. Personally, I think the DCEU should just reboot. If I'm being completely honest. I remember watching the Joker and at the end thinking man, this should be the new start of it. But
That'd be great.
I'm going to go into a little bit of spoiler territory. I would hope everyone's seen it already. It's been a week.
I've seen it 3 times.
Yeah. But I know for a while back I was looking at I was going through a bunch of comic movies, and a thing YouTubers were doing were they called it one marvelous moment, and it was I don't know if they do it with every movie or every franchise, but this particular one was the MCU, and they were all giving them their one marvelous moment in the MCU. One that really stood out to them. One was and I really liked this one. It was Thanos at the end of Infinity War, where he's sitting down looking off to the sunset or the sunrise. It's just, there's no maniacal laugh. There's not even a grin. It's just this
he's
character.
satisfied with
This
what he
character
did.
more so he just. I wouldn't even say he's really proud of what he did. It's more so like he genuinely believes he knew what he believes what he did was right.
Mm-hmm. He did what he had
Yeah.
to do. In a sense.
So that was to him, that was his marvelous moment.
Mm-hmm.
This movie, what would you say your marvelous moment was for this movie?
For this movie,
Yeah.
easy. For me, it is at the end where they pull him out of the police car, and
Yes, I was gonna say that.
when his nose is bleeding and he gets the blood and
It
puts
just
that part.
like
that
fully
was-
transformed.
that really
Yeah,
was. That was
that
like,
gave me chills. I remember when I saw it. I was like,
that was like he
And then
is the Joker now.
the score that played with it, with the build up and the music
Everyone's
that
like,
followed.
stand up.
Oh my god, it
Part-
was
I mean,
so well
as
done.
messed up as the character is, even I would be like, yeah, get up,
Yeah.
get up.
Dance for the crowd.
So it's funny because I feel like this movie also, it kind of tests your morality. Like everything he does is messed up, but you kind of like get where he's coming from.
Yeah.
You kind of side with him in a way,
Yeah.
in a weird, twisted way.
Yeah.
I think, and again, I think that's what the movie does so well.
Yeah, and again, well, we already said spoiler territory.
Yeah.
When in the first instance where he's in the train and basically the start of the whole Joker movement,
Mm-hmm.
he was acting in self defense.
Yes.
He was just getting his ass kicked, and I mean the third one wasn't self defense. Third one was just
At that point, that was an execution style.
Oh,
yeah, but I mean he in a sense he had to do it because that guy wasn't going to let him go.
Yeah.
And so he wasn't going to let that guy go. But he really didn't want to do that,
Yeah.
Even in the train, he's like, no. Like, he's like, I have a condition. He tries to reach in his
And
bag.
they wouldn't let him.
Yeah, and then they take his stuff and
They
then
just start treating him.
Yeah,
But then in turn, I mean, you see him. He runs. He panics. He goes and in that bathroom.
Yeah.
They you just see him start dancing. And I think the the whole idea of that scene is this is probably the first time this man has ever felt in control in his life. So I think that overcame that. And then you see a gradual change in his character. He's more not more cocky, but definitely there's a bit more confidence in him. Like
he's a lot more pompous in the way.
He talks back to his coworkers.
And that getting back on that, it's like in the beginning when after they take his sign, and the boss just starts telling him like, really, like you took a sign, and he's just there like smiling, taking this verbal battering, and then next scene he's in an alley kicking this trash because like that's all he can do. He can't let out his rage.
He's not used to defending himself. And then that next scene, he's leaving and he breaks the punch-in time. He's talking back to everyone. You see that gradual build, and it does. And every scene, it grows and grows more like that. I want to go into some fan theories. I don't know if you guys have heard any. So there's one fan theory that it's all in his head, and I do see where people come with this. I personally don't think it was all in his head. I don't like that narrative.
Yeah.
I think it's just there's something unfulfilling about it. I don't know. What do you guys?
It's like a safe theory.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's always been a theory for like a lot of shows. Like it's
Yes.
all in their head, and I'm like,
Pokemon.
No, it's not.
Pokemon, Adventure Time. There's a bunch more but those are the ones I remember off the top of my head.
There's another one.
Rugrats.
Yeah. Oh, that one too. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
There's another one I do like a lot. I mentioned this to you
Yeah.
a few weeks back. There's one. I don't know if you heard this one, Kyle, but there's a theory that at the end where he's in I guess Arkham again, and he's talking to the lady. Well, not really talking. He's just laughing, and she's like, "What's so funny?" And you see a clip. It cuts to Bruce Wayne standing over his dead parents. He laughs. He goes, "You wouldn't get it." And then, of course, you see the ending where he's walking out. He's escaping Arkham again. So there's a theory that right there is in the present. And everything we just saw was him remembering his origin. And what he's laughing at, I believe, is the irony that the birth of the Joker led to the birth of Batman. We've known the Joker has always had this fascination with Batman. He's always trying to prove that Batman is just as insane as him. And I really like the theory. And again, there's no right or wrong answer, but you had that point you made where he's looking at his files and the orphanage paper, and you see it cuts to that flashback of the mom talking to, I guess, he's not a cop. He's
He's basically like a
private
doctor.
investigator or
No, like a doctor
Oh,
in
yeah,
Arkham.
doctor, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you see that scene happening, and Arthur's in the back as himself. So the idea is, you see Arthur as himself in this memory, because when you think of a memory, no matter how far back it goes, you think of it as yourself. So in that memory, you see Arthur obviously as both Joaquin Phoenix. That's also a thing. It's like, okay, Joaquin Phoenix is crazy, a lot older than young Bruce Wayne. I mean, how would that, mesh up. And not that it needs to. I mean, this movie works well without Batman, but it's a really good theory, and I really like it. I really do like it. I don't know. What do you think? Think a bit of a stretch.
Bit of a stretch, but like I actually like that theory though.
Yeah, and like I said, when we were talking with you about it, I enjoy that theory a lot because, if it is a retelling, then it does leave that possibility open for a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I don't know if I would want one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that whole scene where he's remembering and Penny's like, oh, he was always such a happy boy.
Mm-hmm.
Arthur's just there in the back, just like watching. But how could he know that was what was being said if he wasn't there personally? So him being in the corner as old Joaquin Phoenix does, in my opinion, credit the fact that maybe that was him. He was there when he was younger, and it was just repressed due to the trauma and stuff like that.
I can see that. That's a good
So I
theory.
like that.
I know there's also theories on Thomas Wayne being his dad. I don't know. I don't think so. I really don't.
I doubt it.
I don't. And there's some theories that again, there's no right or wrong answer to them, but they're all good theories. But I personally don't think so. Do you think he killed the girl?
That's
That's a good one.
Oh,
I hear 50-50 on that one every time I ask that question.
what I don't know. The thing is, I'm going to say no, and my reason for that goes to I can't remember his name, but his friend from work.
Arthur? I'm not Arthur. Sorry, what's his
Randall?
name?
No, not
No,
Randall.
Randall,
He kills Randall, the other one.
Yeah. The midget.
Yeah, the
I
midget.
forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot his name.
Yeah, no. But yeah, remember, he lets him go. He lets him live, and he's like, "You're the only one that was ever nice to me." And he does end up killing Murray because he feels Murray treated him badly.
Mm-hmm.
Did the girl ever treat him badly though?
I don't think so. I mean, there's the theory that maybe he did because she rejected him. You don't know. We don't know.
Yeah.
But that's part of the fun with this movie. There's a
Yeah.
lot. The director does leave a lot to talk about at the end.
Yeah, it's great.
So I don't know. I'm on the fence about it. I mean, if I personally I think he did, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
I don't think.
You
I don't think so. I don't think so either. I would have seen blood on him though, unfortunately, when he
Maybe.
walked out, or maybe he could have strangled her. I don't know.
Well, I mean, even then, the only reason we know he killed the girl at the end is because he leaves with the bloody shoe prints. He didn't leave the apartment. Well, when he leaves the apartment, you only see the top half of him, so you don't know if he's leaving a bloody trail. You don't know anything.
Yeah.
And
That's
like
true.
I said, it's a lot open for
and-
discussion. But
Yeah. And then going back to the other theory that it's all in his head, I don't think it is either because I think the director makes it a point to show what's in his head. Like at the beginning, we see he's on the Murray show, and it's on his head.
Yeah.
It's him. Basically, he sees Murray as his father figure.
yeah, basically how he expects
Yes.
Murray to act and how he expects everything to go in this like picture perfect scenario.
And then with his with the girl too. I don't really think the director even need to show that. I think we could have put that piece together that it was all in his head, but the director makes it a point to show us, no, it wasn't. So I think the director would have shown us also if this all was in his head. But I think that's pretty much what I have to say about this movie. Again, I really liked it. I think I'm sorry. Was that your marvelous moment too? The
Marvelous moment? No, actually, I would say probably his part, the stairs when he's dancing.
that was
That was a good one, I think, because that was also the top one too, the blood. But like, I think the stairs one, because there's some parallel I can't even speak.
Shards?
there's
They were
there's some parallel shots in the movie where, like, you notice in the beginning where he was like very glum when he was riding the train, and in the end when he's riding the taxi, you could see like he's smiling.
Yeah.
And then when he's walking up the stairs, he's just facing the stairs, but as he comes to terms to himself, like his back is towards the stairs, and he's kind of like, yeah, this is me now.
He's become the Joker, yeah. But yeah, that part is true, dude. I remember when I saw him do this, I'm like, he's gonna do it. I did it with. I was like,
Dude, yeah,
I'm like,
it.
that was such a cool part.
And you see, honestly, I made it a point not to sit with you, and I've sat with Kyle and even then I had to like sit back in my chair because I was like looking at Kyle, eyeing Kyle through the corner of my eye, and I don't want to be that guy during the movie that's like, you're sitting three seats away from me, and I'm just like,
Yeah,
No,
I get it. But that's my take on this whole thing. To bring it all to a close, I do hope there's a push for more movies like this. And again, not in the sense that not every movie has to be dark. I think that's what people tend to mistake by you know, because it's dark, it's good. I know when DCU was coming out, it was like, oh, it's gonna be darker. It's like darker doesn't always mean good. You know, it all comes down to story. But that being said, I mean, if it helps move the story in the right direction, by all means. So, and I do hope, you know, maybe one day Disney will wise up and we'll get a good Star Wars movie. In the sense of, like, you know, in-depth storytelling. And if I could pick any for Star Wars, it would be Vader. I know we've gotten the prequels, but I would really like to see a fleshed out story of Vader, you know, his descent to the dark side. I think we all like a good villain. I think we all like a villain we can relate to. And I mean, maybe even if it wasn't canon to Star Wars, I'd still enjoy it. I mean, I'm sure you guys would enjoy it too.
Oh,
Yeah, no, if it
Like,
was
done
Star
really
Wars,
well.
I would like Malgus.
Malgus?
Yeah,
The
just
Old
because
Republic.
Knights of the Old Republic was so cool. It was so awesome.
I can see that.
And I would like to see. I mean, you have the cinematics for
Mhm.
you know, for the game, but I would like to see more of that character.
Oh, okay. I'm a big Vader fan, so you know, that's why. But I think we're gonna close up. Any last lasting remarks, guys, on, you know, the movie, cinema, all this in general?
Kyle, you've been quiet a lot. We've
Sorry.
actually been interrupting you a
Yeah,
lot.
I'm
so
sorry, Kyle.
That's good. I mean, if there was a sequel, I just want like a sequel of like the world itself, like not Joker, but like, you know, any characters inhabiting that world after what the events of Joker, like what's been going on with these people or like this person. Hopefully, might culminate into a certain villain. Who knows?
Yeah.
But we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, we will see. Brian, any last words?
I really hope that this makes a push for movies to, or just people to take a creative direction with it, rather than, hey, just play it safe. No,
Yes.
I would like for directors to take a chance with these movies, to portray each character as they are in the comics, because that's where you initially got your fan base.
Mm-hmm.
That's where, you know, people.
So we want to see.
Yeah, that's what comic people want to see, or, you know, the comic book fans want to see. And even then, if you were to do that with just bring it to life in the movies, you would get an even better reception. And, you know, I will say this: one of my friends, she really liked Endgame, so she read the comics, and,
Oh.
and then after reading the comics, she realized she didn't like Endgame at
yeah.
all. So, but again, I'm just really hoping that, you know, they take a chance with it. Into the Spider-Verse is a great example.
Mhm.
Joker, Logan, just movies that
The
delve on this.
proof's there. We just,
Yes.
you know, there needs to be a push for it.
Mhm.
But that being said, I think we're gonna wrap this up.
Yeah.
I know, again, every time we've done a video, like that, I always say we're gonna try to make more content, and we go months on end without making content. I'm sorry, but we're gonna really, I mean it. We're gonna really try this time. But anyway, so guys, go ahead, comment, like. Let me know, what were your thoughts on the Joker? Was it overrated? Was it overhyped? Was it really good? Do you want to see more of these movies? Comment down, let us know. And like always, we'll see you next time.